Hi guys, I'm Guille from Cooking from Spain, and today we're making a delicious Galician Empanada, Rías Baixas style. We gotta start this recipe with the Zaragallada, as we're gonna use the aromatized oil later for the dough. For this, we're gonna need around half a kilo of bell peppers, use the color that you like the most, and 1.2 kilos of onions. 150 grams of a good extra virgin olive oil, a tablespoon of smoked paprika, 5 grams of salt, and a couple of bay leaves. So, in order to work efficiently, let's clean first all the vegetables to cut them later. For that, you wanna peel all the onions, and let me show you a little trick to remove efficiently all the seeds of the bell pepper. Start by cutting the stem out and then place it upside down to, with this movement, get all the size of your pepper without touching the seeds at any moment. This technique will allow us to get only the part of the pepper that we need, removing the whole core all at once. Now our vegetables are ready to cut. We're gonna slice the peppers in strings of about 1 centimeter. Let's try to keep them all even, and then with the onions we want them a little bit more thin. I've seen some chefs dicing the vegetables in cubes instead of strings, but I find julienne way easier and faster, so let's keep it simple. Now for the poaching, if you have a cast iron pot, that's my way to go for sure, but if you don't, you can use a normal pot. Drop your vegetables in together with the oil, the salt and the bay leaves, and stir a little bit so you mix everything together. To then close the pot for the first 30 minutes. That's already going to reduce the volume of the vegetables quite a lot, as they release big part of the water that they have. Because now this is what's all about. Cooking at low heat to slowly reduce all its water while slightly caramelizing the sugars that are naturally present from the veggies. Just make sure you stir every 5-10 minutes, and if you realize it's sticking to the bottom, don't panic. Those are Maillard reactions that are actually good for the flavor. Just keep stirring and the humidity of the veggies will help clean the pot again. After around 45 minutes, your veggies won't have moist enough, then just add a splash of water and deglaze the pot. After 1 hour and a half, your veggies should look like this, and now it's time to remove the bay leaves, make a space in the middle and drop a tablespoon of smoked paprika. Turn off the heat and stir for a couple minutes to integrate all the flavors together. Remember, we just want to slightly toast the paprika, but be careful not to burn it. Next step is to strain the Zaragallada, collecting all the fat, and complete it with butter until 270 grams, which is the amount of fat that we're gonna need for the dough. In my case, I got 70 grams of the Zaragallada oil, therefore 200 grams of butter. Now, here's what you need to make the dough. 750 grams of all-purpose flour, 270 grams of the beautiful fat cream we just made, 125 grams of water, 170 grams of white wine, 1 egg, and 7 grams of sea salt. Luckily for all of us, empanada dough is actually pretty easy to make. Get a big bowl and place most of the flour, but save a little bit for later, depending on how your flour reacts to the rest of the ingredients. Now add the liquids, the salt and the egg. Mix to integrate a little bit, and it's time for the fat that we're gonna add in 2 or 3 times. Use your clean hands to knead the dough a little bit, and now is the moment to add the rest of the flour that you saved before if you feel like the dough needs it. In my case, I like to add a little bit in the bowl, but also save a little bit for later to finish the kneading in the table. This dough doesn't really need a strong gluten development, so just knead it for around 5 minutes until you get a smooth bowl like this one. Divide your bowl in 2 halves and fold them to keep it in the fridge for 30 minutes. In this time, our empanada dough is gonna gain a lot of elasticity, which is essential for the next step, rolling it out. For a proper Rías Baixas style empanada, we want our dough to be as thin as possible so it gets crispy and delicious later in the oven. To achieve that, make sure the table and both sides of the dough are floured enough at all times. When it looks like you cannot spread it more, then it's time to flip it and do it again. Repeat this process for a couple times and you will get it as thin as possible. Once it's ready, put it on the tray with some paper, and this is going to be the base of our empanada, and now we just have to repeat the process to make what's going to be the lid of the empanada. For that, I remove a little bit of the other half of the dough, as we want the lid to be slightly smaller than the base. Hey, and don't make the same mistake I did. You need to poke the base with a fork before adding the filling, and later you're gonna see why. For the filling, by the way, I used all my Zaragallada, that was 440 grams, together with 250 grams of tuna and a couple of tablespoons of a good homemade tomato sauce. Some people may say this last ingredient is not so traditional in Galicia, but honestly I don't care. I think it makes it just better and juicier. So anyway, once you placed all the filling in, it's time to put the lid on, and now we're gonna cut it even so we make a big square, but really important to leave a little bit of space between the filling and the edge so we can close it properly. Here's the technique that I use. After some practice, you can make it look cute and homemade, but if you find it complicated, just use a fork or whatever you can pressure the dough with. And this is of course completely optional, but you can use the leftovers of the dough to decorate it a little bit. What's pretty common is to use the letter of the main ingredient of the filling, in this case A of atún, which is the Spanish word for tuna. After the decoration, paint it with some egg and use a scissor to make these holes that are gonna act like a escape for all that moist that our filling has. And now we bring this to a preheated oven at 180 degrees for around 45 minutes. Remember when I forgot to poke the base? Well, this is me now fixing the bubbles that puff because of that. Let it cool down a little bit and this is ready to enjoy. Extremely crunchy, the dough is like my favorite part and the inside is super juicy and sweet, just like heaven. Spectacular. Thanks for watching, I hope you make it, let me know how it goes in the comments and see you in the next one.